Hi, everybody. This is day 1449. 1449 days since Richard was premeditatedly murdered on Fort Bliss. Um, there is no other option. Remember when um, we talked to the private investigator? We even talked to J.J. Arms, right? And he gave us these options, uh, and we took that very, very seriously to look at all the options. And as the years have gone by and the mounting evidence of hard evidence, circumstantial evidence, and irregularities, and all of them are very important. And you have to put together the timeline, you have to put together the crime board that we have. We've put it all together. Um, and there is no other possibility other than that Richard was premeditatedly murdered on Fort Bliss. And so let me make sure that everything is working. It looks like it is. Let me make sure that. Okay. Everything I can be heard, so that's great. Um, so let's get started. Um, with today, and I really wanted to focus. There's so much. There is a rumbling. There is a rumbling going on, okay? We have information that in the 34th Judicial District Attorney's Office there is a absolute earthquake going on there. It is they I think they had over 30 resignations. Now, if you know something different, please let me know. But our information coming to us is that there were over 30 resignations in the 34th Judicial District Attorney's Office. That is just a huge rumbling going on in the criminal justice system there in El Paso. And this is because, uh, Bill Hicks is a usurper, okay? He failed to install properly. And this is something that, the public, we just trust that whoever is elected to a very, very important um, position such as this, or in Bill Hicks's case, he wasn't elected, he was appointed, that when he's appointed, we as the just the public trust that he will follow the law and sign his statement of officer properly, which is the anti-bribery statement, right? And submit that before he takes his oath of office and fills out his oath of office properly and submits that in a timely manner, and is then takes his oath of office and is installed properly, right? Because it is required by in this case, the Texas Constitution, how he should be installed. And he did not install properly, so which makes him void, which makes his whole appointment, illegal. Or let's just say void, that it just voids it off. He is not the legitimate district attorney. And so when something like this happens, because see, there was tampering going on, and we have the evidence, the hard evidence, the communications, the documents, everything to prove that he did not install properly and that there was tampering, or I could say allegations of tampering. To us, we have the hard evidence, but the allegations of the tampering of the timestamp to try to cover this all up. But he couldn't really do it because there is something called in session appointments, and then of course out of session recess appointments. And Bill Hicks was a recess appointment, but when he was tampering and everything, the Senate, the Texas Senate, was in session. So he just couldn't fix, he couldn't undo his botched installation, and it's a botched installation, and so he's a usurper of the 34th Judicial District Attorney's Office, and and of course, more than just us, right? More than just Team Farm Richard Halliday. There are investigations going on uh, at a state level and also at a federal level. And then, of course, there are concerned citizens because for our son's case to go forward, we partly rely on the 34th Judicial District Attorney's Office for prosecution, right? To identify the crime, to identify the criminals, to document it, to prosecute it, right? That is very, very important in our son's case. It's, of course, our son's case is also federal. So, and it's also international, right? So, so for part of our son's case, the situation in the 34th Judicial District Attorney's Office is very important to us. And so we have, of course, reported this, and, we've been so busy lately, we wanted to even go back and resubmit or supplement some of the things that we've submitted. Um, and we're planning on still doing that because it's very, very important. But hopefully we won't have to. We have file folders full of all of the complaints and letters and notifications and warnings and evidence that we have sent to I mean, it's just so many. It's just a mountain full of people and emails and letters and everything that we have sent to move our son's case forward. And no one should have to go through what we have gone through, okay? No one should have to just stop their entire life in order to get justice for their loved ones. When we pay taxes, right? We pay taxes and we have a system, and we should have a criminal judicial system. We should have a system that, because that's what we pay for them to take care of this, that we can depend on them and trust our criminal justice system to do this for us. But we have had to stop our lives, practically stop so many things to submit, to formulate. You have to formulate all these letters. You have to edit all these letters. You have to gather all the addresses and points of contacts and emails and everything. And you have to submit them and you have to submit them to the right offices, right? So that it's such a bureaucracy. It's such a hard word to say, but to make this go forward. And so because of us, because of the state and federal level of investigations going forward, because of other concerned citizens that are watching these things, that also depend on a functioning district attorney, a prosecutor. Because of all of this, there are rumblings going on in El Paso, and in that judicial district attorney's office, there has been over 30, maybe more now, because this has been a few days now that we received this information. Over 30 resignations. This is so detrimental to El Paso, right? Maybe it's not. Maybe it'll save them money. I don't know. Because um, the office clearly, through our open records, were up to no good. They were up to no good, betraying the people of El Paso. Okay. So, you know, we really pray that the people of El Paso, because we're being shadow banned. Of course, we're being, the algorithm stops at a certain point and everything. We have many Team Find Richard Halliday people that understand how this worked, and we've had to work around it, but we want to get the news out. So please share this news, because the people of El Paso need a functioning district attorney's office. And because Bill Hicks is a usurper in that office, and our rumblings, the sounds that we're hearing, is that he's in real trouble. Uh, he's in real trouble. He might find himself in handcuffs. This is what we're hearing. So, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. And because of that, what does the Texas Constitution say? Because that office cannot be left empty, right? You need a prosecutor, right? So that seat can't be empty. So the Texas Constitution provides an answer for that. It's called the holdover officer. So the holdover officer is the last elected official that was properly installed, and that is Yvonne Rosales. And so Yvonne Rosales, who was properly installed, Yvonne Rosales, who was duly elected as district attorney, and Yvonne Rosales, who absolutely, there is hard evidence and proof that she was forced to resign under duress, okay, and for this usurper, right? So she has no worries. She can absolutely have no worries, to the point where she can have confidence to strap on her boots, or put on her boots, strap on her full armor of God, and walk into that 34th Judicial District Attorney's office and take her rightful place. She can be confident of that, and we need to be behind her on that. And then we need to pray and really, I would say demand. I would say demand, expect, and demand that um, she fills her duty, right? That she does her duty as a prosecutor, and that she will identify the crimes and the criminals and document them and prosecute them. And this is what we expect from a district attorney: for them to do their duty, to follow the law, to not be political, but to follow the law. And so, yeah, so this is, thank you, Anicia, for coming on. So this is really, really important. Um, so this is the rumblings that we're hearing. And of course, those rumblings of Bill Hicks extends to Mario Raskin Ortiz, who is absolutely, even though he's trying to fake it, it's like this whole thing with Biden. All these people are trying to fake it, right? They're trying to pretend like, oh, he just does those gaffes. That's his personality. And so, if he just says, oops, let's go to World War III, and he's talking about World War II or whatever. Let's go. That's just a gaffe, and he's used to it. Y'all, it's so absurd what's going on right now. And you cannot just fake it. And Mario Raskin Ortiz, the chief medical examiner, he is illegal. You can tamper, you can whatever, but we know there's years and years of information there, hard evidence there, circumstantial evidence, irregularities, communication. Like I'm saying, it's hard evidence that he also is not qualified to be the chief medical examiner. And this is very important in our son's case, right? For that investigation to go forward because of the remains of our son, right? Because of the remains of our son, because of the remains of the Walmart mass shooting victims, and many other cases. But because Richard's case is connected to the Walmart mass shooting, um, then the whole thing gets is it's very important for both of those cases. That's why I'm mentioning them. If you're wondering why all of this happened, and so many trolls, not so many, a handful of trolls from the primary suspects and from this criminal group, Bob Moore's criminal group, from the original response team in Richard's case, okay? Why they are trolling, why they have done this from the very beginning, why they have gotten unjust coverage of their criminal activity, why that has happened. It's protection, and you see this in the Biden administration right now, because it's so clear that they should put America first, right? It's so clear that they're not. And it's so clear that people are asking, why aren't they? And they are absolutely protecting their jobs. And this is what happened in Richard's case. When Vanessa Guillen was found, they never wanted Vanessa Guillen's remains to be found. That is, I'll put this up. That is very, very clear. We know that. We've known that because we talked to Texas EquiSearch. We talked to the people that were there at Fort Hood. At that time, it's now Fort Cavazos. They had to change the name of the military installation because of all of this mess, right? And at Fort Hood, and we, this is the thing. We're connected to Fort Hood. That's where I met my husband. That's where we got married. We got married in the chapel on Fort Hood. Our first daughter, was born there in Killeen. I taught school in Killeen at Peebles Elementary School. So we're connected to that Fort Hood, Killeen area. We're connected, of course, to the El Paso area. This was not something that we were coming in blind to. And so we have connections. We have dear friends from both areas and more in Texas. Texas was our home. And, so we know a lot about the Vanessa Guillen case, and that when they found the Pelican case, they called off the search. Now, who in their right mind finds super important evidence like the Pelican case with the DNA blood on it, right? And then calls off the search? You never do that. No right mind CID organization would ever do that. They would double up. They would reinforce the search, right? They would absolutely get as many people together to continue the search, and even more so, more deliberately, because they had found that very important piece of evidence. But not in Vanessa Guillen's case. In Vanessa Guillen's case, they called off the search and told everyone to go home. And so time went by, and they absolutely, this shows an internal cover up in Vanessa Guillen's case too. There was never an intention, and that's my opinion. They never, and this is my opinion too, they never intended for anyone to ever find Vanessa Guillen's remains. And when that happened at the very end of June, and they then confirmed it in the beginning of July, the same month that Richard was murdered in, um, absolutely, it was total earthquake in the Department of Defense. Many people lost their jobs. They were, they still were in the cover up mode, right? They wanted to save as many jobs as they could. Um, they just want to get away with murder, right? They want to get away with malfeasance. They want to get away with not doing their duty, with not honoring their oath to protect the Constitution, to defend the Constitution from enemies, foreign and domestic. They didn't want to do that. It was very clear that there was a huge rumbling going on, and when Richard's murder happened, just right in that time period, right there in July of 2020, they did not want to have another Guillen, right? They did not want to have it, and they had it. They had it. And they absolutely knew that they found his remains. They absolutely have had his remains. And it just makes me just so, I'm the mother having to do this day in and day out, to tell people they had the remains of my son, and they still have them, and they won't give them. They won't relinquish our son's remains, where we absolutely have all the hard evidence, absolute proof by so many officials, from DHS to CBP to Department of State to FBI to the prime suspects too, and they will not give us our son's remains, right? Because they do not want to have another huge they rather protect their jobs than to do what's right. And the thing is they suffer for that. They don't even realize, you know, well, maybe they do. Maybe they do, because we have uh, absolute communication and information from Leilani Hart, that she is absolutely losing it. Losing it. I mean, it seems like she's in discussions with Etty. Etty is no longer here, y'all. And his whole death uh, you know, is suspicious. Okay? There's all kinds of rumors going on, and they're supported rumors. Okay? There's supported rumors that whole, what happened to her son, and this is her older son, is wow. And she's having communications with him about Richard? About Richard? Now, she's losing it. And she's been losing it for a long time, because we have hard evidence from a judge years and years ago, when she became a confirmed convicted criminal, that her mental health was not good. Not good. And we have communications from her now ex-husband that her mental health is not good. And these are legal communications, right? And I had it from Dallas Hart when I talked to him on the phone. Um, you know, that his mother's mental health was not good. Was not good. And it seems to be getting worse and worse, because now she seems, I mean, she's admitting, she's confessing to talking to her deceased son, that has a very suspicious uh, death, right? And she's talking to him about my son. and she's a prime suspect in the murder of Richard, my son. And, wow. And she's also confessing to using these fake profiles. So now, what does this mean? This means we need to pray for her, right? We need to pray for her because it's going to be terrible. It's going to be terrible for her because she's a criminal. She's a criminal, and it is, you don't want to be a criminal, y'all, because it is so bad. It is so bad. If you're getting away with it and you're behind bars, your life is still hell. Okay? It is nothing to desire. Nothing. And so, and I'm not saying that I don't want her held accountable. I want her held accountable. And, she's been talking, oh, you mentioned immunity. Look, that is, that's what my husband said. That is water under the bridge. That ship sailed. We are at 2024 here. July 2024. We were talking that in 2020. And Leilani Hart needs to understand the evidence has mounted and mounted and mounted. And, I'm just wondering if that whole discussion that she was having in her mental state with Etty, is that a confession? And even using this profile name, is that a confession? Because you have to look at her deliberate choice of names. Is that a confession? But what it does show, what it does prove, is Bob Moore failed. He is using Leilani Hart with this long criminal history, with a long history of, mental health issues. And he is using that to obstruct justice in a murdered Fort Bliss soldier's case and to hurt other people. He's using Leilani Hart as a source that has no date, that has no evidence, that has nothing. I think Bob Moore of El Paso Matters, he needs to do some confessing of his own. He needs to do some apologizing of his own. And he's using someone with a real someone that is talking to their deceased son. That's wow. I don't think she's a reliable source. I don't think so. And to not give us the time of day to write a death story about our son and not even calling us, communicating with us to get a comment, to get our side of the story, to not respond to no less than 15 communications with him where we are providing warnings about Leilani Hart's criminal record, about proof on how she had this relationship sexual relationship with her family member that's a CID agent, and that lost his badge now, but at Fort Bliss, and that he gave unauthorized access and tampered with Richard's um, file. And who corroborated that information? James Courtney Hart corroborated that information and even told us that he was in communication, active communication with Marlon Soto, right? About this tampering of files and her manipulating and putting a complaint about him even. Uh, that it corroborated that information that we had. And then, of course, we have communications between James Courtney Hart and Leilani Hart that corroborate um, the state of their family, right? The incest, the child porn, the long history of child sexual abuse, which she then confessed to in her affidavit that she had notarized and that the FBI accepted because it was referred to by the CID, right? Who helped get it referred? Well, that was Tavita Nusa. Okay, he was the one that coached her to, and why could she use the CID office for that? You know, why didn't she go through the civilian route? That's a whole nother discussion. So thank you, Danielle, for coming on. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you, Anicia, for your prayers and your love. And so today was a huge day. Um, I still cannot, I'm not at liberty to tell you the huge breaking news that we've had the last few days, because that's not all completely finished. But hopefully, as soon as that happens, I will be able to give you that update. I'm going to tell you that what I can tell you is there is a lot of conflicts of interest with LLCs, huge, huge, and that is all being corroborated, and that really, of course, learning about Nadal, Baim, and all of this. Why doesn't Bob Moore report on this, right? Why doesn't he report? I mean, with his access as a journalist, um, he could have like uh, such interesting and stories that would be for the benefit of El Paso, right? But no, he is covering up for criminals. He is, matter of fact, he is part of that rogue group, that breakaway group from the original response team in Richard's case, in the Walmart mass shooting case. He's part of this group. And they're up to no good. He's up to no good, and he's up to no good because he's using Leilani Hart. It's like the media using Jill Biden. Jill, you think Biden's okay? Oh, he's wonderful. He's wonderful. He just, whatever. You just have to know he didn't get enough sleep. He didn't get enough sleep. Whatever. I don't. This is not politics. This is about the truth. Okay? This is about the truth. And I'm not trying. We all take sides to a certain degree, right? But this is so absurd what's going on, in such a good analogy of what has happened in Richard's case. Oh, Ma'am, I remember October 29th. What? Not even 3 days after Nadal Baim, we get a call by General, 4-star General James McConville, right? 4-star General James McConville. Who's sitting beside him? Major General at the time. She's a lieutenant general now. How that happened, I don't know. She needs to be stripped. Both of them need to be stripped from their uniforms. But beside him was Major General Donna Martin, the provost, the leader of the CID, right? The provost general. Um, October 29th, he tells us, we are going to put together a task force, find Richard Halliday to find your son. And then he never issues an op-ord. They have that task force, find Richard Halliday meeting out of uniform. We have that right there is the case for intentional cover up, intentional misleading, intentional betrayal. Why doesn't Bob Moore write about that? He hasn't even asked us, do you have proof of that? That's huge. And why David Stewart? Him and his wife. I've always thought that they had a tinge of decency. Why, Command Sergeant Major's over there with the original, with the group, the breakaway, the part of the group of the original um, response team, right? He's up to no good. Absolutely up to no good. Why doesn't Bob Moore write about Major General Clem Coward or Lieutenant Colonel Michael Roddick, um, Matlock, Major General Matlock? Why doesn't he write? Oh, he got a 3rd star too. This is so absolutely disgusting and disgraceful and discrediting not only of Bob Moore, of El Paso Matters, of El Paso Community Foundation, but discrediting and disgraceful and disgusting of our military leadership. And they're talking World War III right now. They're hustling on Fort Bliss right now for all that Patriot testing and everything like that. You know, um, and they absolutely, the leadership is just unfit. Absolutely disgust. How can you have any victory without any allegiance to your oath, to your duty, to your country, to the service members that are there for you, that you are in command of, to the equipment, to the, let's talk about the equipment. Let's talk about the economic part of this, right? Because people don't really like to think about the ramifications of the economic betrayal that we have here. If there is weapons trafficking and equipment trafficking, um, you know, shorting our service members, that costs their lives. If there's tampering with the equipment, right? That is tampering with our service members' lives. If they're getting the cheap end of the equipment and the other equipment's getting trafficked, that's messing with our service members' lives. And if you're messing with our service members' lives, you're messing with our defense. And then you're messing with the lives of the people of this country because you're charging them for this fraud, waste, and abuse. For the fraud, waste, and abuse. And that task force find Richard Halliday meeting where they brought in the 15 plus different agencies and they flew down Donna Martin and they put on this big dog and pony show and they first before they got all the soldiers and they bust them and said, oh, we're going to do PT, and they put them up in the mountain and we're going to search all for this missing soldier, right? But all along they had Richard's remains. Do you know how much that cost? All of that fraud, waste, and abuse? That every time that fraud, waste, and abuse is expanded, and that those are the lives, that is our country. The economics is so important because that the direct consequences to that is the loss of life and the loss of our liberties and the loss of our country. So, for McConville, for Mealy, for Donna Martin to be so hazardous and criminal with their orders, their dog and pony shows, and not only that, it's that there's fraud, waste, and abuse there. That there's cover up there. And so the criminality grows because they're like, I can get away with it. If the general does it, so can I. If my colonel does it, so can I. If the provost marshal does it, so can I. If the CID does it, what are they going to do to me? If I want to bring in a 14-year-old girl and let them live in the barracks and pimp her out to soldiers and make some money, what are they going to do to me? And that actually happened. If I want to traffic drugs, what are they going to do to me? They're criminal, so I can be criminal. When there's no esprit de corps and no allegiance to the oath, to the defense of our Constitution, we're in a mess. And don't expect to win wars. And when there's crying and gnashing of teeth, you don't have to be surprised. Because with leaders like this, who needs enemies? And if Bob Moore, with media, who is supposed to expose the fraud, waste, and abuse, they are supposed to be our they are a layer of protection, right? To make sure that the leaders don't make the right decisions, that they do honor their position, that they do honor their uniform. When we met with the CAO and you see them in uniform, and it still makes me all shaky because, the uniform is so beautiful and they're contaminating the uniform. by their criminal activity. And it's absolutely criminal to keep the remains of a murdered soldier from their family. It's absolutely criminal because they don't want another Guillen situation. Um, Bob Moore has failed his duty as a journalist. And when I say that he is discredited, he is so discredited. When I say that he is disgraceful, he is so disgraceful. Because I try to err on caution, right? Let's give him a chance. Let's give him a chance. 15 plus communicate. Come on, Bob. Come on, Bob. We're telling you. We're telling you. We're writing you. We're writing you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Come on. We're writing you. You're not responding? He's not responding. And you know what? He hasn't changed that. He's still not responding. He's only responding to that group. That group, and Leilani Hart, who is continuously displaying that she is not in reality. I mean, we know what happened after Richard's murder. There was a real need there because you cannot do what you did to Richard and not need any kind of scaffolding to hold you up. And I hope you read between the lines in that. So, there's a lot of hard evidence, a lot of circumstantial evidence, and why Bob Moore is in with his experience and with his funding is rubbing shoulders and teaming up with this group that was part of the original, and I have to repeat it over and over again because I hope people share it, because this criminal group was part of the original response team in Richard's case and investigation. And what's exposing them even further are their conflicts of interest between one another and their LLCs. And there's, breaking news in El Paso, up in the mountains, and I'm trying to learn about that. So hopefully tomorrow I can talk about it more. But something is going on. I think they found this is really important in connection to the Walmart case and, what's going on. I believe it's important. I went through it a bit and absolutely decided, okay, we need to go through this with a fine-tooth comb. And so that's what we're doing. And then we can report on it. We're not going to be like Bob Moore and not try to corroborate and understand a story before, or an event or an incident or a finding before doing our research. And this whole finding Nadal Baim was a very, very good example of that. because we had to do a lot of investigative work behind the scenes, and we never revealed who our suspects were um, for this FBI man that walked into the Dollar General. And when we were absolutely sure that we knew who he was, because we talked to him and he said it, we found out, hey, Western Frontier Trading, you have a Nadal Baim? Oh, yeah, I'm Nadal Baim. Oh, so you walked into the Dollar General? Oh, yeah, that was me. That was me. Um, so, we confirmed it. And we've never revealed publicly who we were inquiring about, who we thought might be him. We always knew, and it took us months and months, we always knew that he was somebody. That he wasn't just some guy that was watching our live streams on Facebook. And we were right. Nadal Baim is somebody. And he has many connections. And many connections through his LLCs, many connections through his family, many connections to El Paso and elsewhere and internationally, because he's an international man. And so it is having the connection with the supervisory director of the FBI for El Paso, Nieto, and Nieto's wife, discovering that connection, and her job on Fort Bliss in national security, and working closely with Lieutenant Colonel Bugado in the G3 of the 32nd ADCOM, and Bugado's wife, the daughter of Baim, in the fitness business. And there's more. And there's more. It's, yeah. And Nadal Bain bidding to sell ammunition to the El Paso Police Department up to $3 million contract. We're not talking about chump change, even though you might think, oh yeah, in respect to the Pentagon and all of their fraud, waste, and abuse, $3 million. No, it's because of the fraud, waste, and abuse that we have this kind of costs, this kind of overcost, this kind of charges. $3 million is a lot of money to me, but anyway, but to bid for that and really kind of misrepresent themselves to us and be so connected in so many different ways. Nadal Baim at the beginning, I was telling everyone, he was one of the first that were what was the most forthright, and we really appreciated that about him. But he's not innocent, y'all. He could have told us a lot more. And he did lie to us because he said, if I knew more, I would tell you. And he knew more. And he didn't tell us. Yes, there's evidence Bob Moore is part of the rogue group. Absolutely. Absolutely. He's over there with Shaky Jackovitz, with Richard's first sergeant, Ruggiero, with the PR, Nick, the PR for first AD, Nick Brownbell Nufziger, with, well, I haven't heard from her lately, but, Amber Chase from the El Paso Independent School District and former Mortuary Affairs. And there's more about that too with Waco. No, Waco? Huco tanks, Waco tanks. How do you say that word? How do you pronounce it? So there's a huge investigation going on. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, and Bob Moore could absolutely have years worth of stories on this. And as a journalist, he should. But he doesn't. And that makes him criminal. That makes him violating his 501c3. That's what he's doing. And the trust of the people of El Paso. But something happened not too long ago, and it was Lady Justice took her rightful place. They brought back Lady Justice and put her in her rightful place. And did they think that that was just a symbol? Did they think nothing would happen? That there's not more, that the stars in their course fought against Sisera? Lady Justice in her rightful place in El Paso. They did that. And the stars in their course that surround her crown. Does she have a crown? Does she have she has the scales, right? It means something. I don't know what the majority of the people watching do when they see the cross of Christ, but in our family's religious tradition, being a Christian, when we march, when that cross passes us down through the middle of our church, so that our church service can begin, we bow. We bow in reverence, not because of the cross that is, brass or gold or wood or whatever, because there is power in the cross. There is power in Lady Justice being in her rightful place. There is power in those little gold stars that we received. And when you have esprit de corps, there's power in that. And that's what that power that I can't even explain is what wins the battles. It's that reverence. It's that understanding that God's hand is on all of this. It's that discipline of esprit de corps. That's what wins the battles. It's not the does the Patriot missile hit the rightful spot? How big is your Patriot missile? How big is your army? I mean, we have story after story where you can march around an impenetrable wall, march and blow your horns, and the walls will come tumbling down. Because there's power in the faith and the belief and what is right and what is good and what is just. There's power in that. And I sound like it's just I can't even explain the situation that we're in and what we've been up against and what has happened. It's um, and why we have to continue until we get Richard's remains, until we can have those that did this terrible crime held accountable. Because otherwise, Lady Justice would not be satisfied. That power, Lady Justice wants justice. So the stars in their courses want the victory won, right? The battle won. They want the victory. So we're on the right side. We're in the right spirit. We try very, very hard to stay in that reverence. When you know what we've known and what they did to our son, you have to fight the anger. We try not to even entertain the anger, but to keep thinking straight, thinking reverently, thinking about what Lady Justice wants, and help the people of El Paso get back their criminal justice system so that we ourselves can get justice in our son's case. And so other families, do what we can so that as few families will have to go through this like what we've gone through. So thank you so much, everybody. And please write Bob Moore. Write him and say, what are you doing? You should be arrested. He should be arrested. And write El Paso Matters. Write, what you can do is write El Paso Community Foundation, because they are the funding for Bob Moore and El Paso Matters. You need to write them. And you need to say, what are you thinking having Bob Moore use without doing any kind of history or not even caring about because we did the history check, we did the source check, the background check for him. We sent it to him to correct his error and is it laziness? Is it, getting caught doing a cover up? I don't know, but we sent it to him about Leilani Hart. So, and now she's demonstrating why he couldn't use her. She's demonstrating that right now. Why he couldn't use her. So, and can't use her. So, thank you so much. God bless you. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing. And please share, 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 um, and comment and like. Thank you.